What starts here changes the world. I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. And while these lessons were learned during my time in the military, I can assure you that it matters not whether you ever served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers.
Welcome, everybody, to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Tom Diens. He is working with supporting the Alberta independence movement and so forth. And we've had him on before, but it was time to come back and have a good conversation about separation. And yes, I like this. Like, I would recommend everybody go watch this speech by Admiral McRaven. He goes over stuff that everybody should listen to, because we are literally in a war, and he's telling you what you need to do to be disciplined. And this is a man who is an admiral in the Navy, and he went through the Navy SEALs and so forth. And we really need to start rethinking the way that we should do things, because, I mean, we need to judge people based on what they are doing, not anything else. Because, like he was talking about, you get everybody in all different walks of life, but it's everybody who has the heart to do the work are the ones that you should be dealing with. So welcome to the show, and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me back, Dale. It's great to have the time to talk with you, man. I really respect the work that you're doing yourself. And yeah, I really jumped on the Alberta independence team because I see this as an incredible opportunity as a catalyst for real change in Canada, because Canada is going down a very, very dark path, and our quote unquote leaders are not taking us in the right direction whatsoever. So anyone that can see this, it's your responsibility to take a stand now. I understand that not everyone is in support of Alberta becoming independent, but I encourage respectful dialogue, a good exchange, right? So that's really important. And understanding, like, for me, there's like 5 main pillars, right, that I kind of try to unite people under. One of them being like executive accountability, judicial reform, constitutional reform, individual property rights. And I also talk about economic prosperity. Those are kind of the 5 key things that I try to get people to. Let's take a good look at what's going on here, and also let's understand what Canada is today from what it was before. Thanks for having me on, Bill.
You're welcome. What I want to say is that, I mean, regardless of whether or not people agree with separation or not, you have to understand that the provinces, especially the western provinces, have been thrown under the bus, and Alberta has been for a very long time. So if you can't understand that fact, then there's a problem, because everybody right now should have a beef with the federal government, because they're bending everybody over. And so at the end of the day, it's an important discussion, because it underlies something that is very real, and that is, because it's been left for so long, is the reason why it's gotten to this point. And these issues aren't going to go away. So people have to seriously consider what's being said, because if you don't, well, the country falls apart, right? That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is. I mean, you can see, like, I always think of what Trudeau said over a decade ago. I mean, he called Canada the first post-national state, no mainstream and no core identity. I mean, this is coming from your own prime minister, guys. I know he's not there now, but like, those are very key words, because that's exactly the trajectory the leadership is taking the country. And you got to understand, like, okay, so they say these things, and Carney, of course, talking about the New World Order and his ties to China, and, you know, he's kind of trying to pull Canada towards the EU. But you got to take a look, okay, well, what are their policies? What do they actually want to do? And do you actually even agree with this? Is the questions you need to take a look, not just say, well, he's the leader and we'll just follow blindly along with whatever it is that they're telling us.
Yeah, that's nonsense. And like, when I look at the whole issue, I'm going to tell you right now that we have more in common with anybody in America than we do with Europe. And I don't care if your ancestry came from Europe, because if you've been in Canada for any length of time, you are nothing like Europeans. Because my brother-in-law, he's European. 2 of them are actually came from Europe, and one very much more recently. And I mean, I have no idea. That culture is foreign to me. Foreign, right? Like, I have family members that are black that live in the UK. What? Like, I don't get it. Like, sure, there's some things in common, but I have more in common with people over here than I do anywhere else. Like, not much less. Even if I went to Africa, I wouldn't know what. Even in the Caribbean, where my parents from. Sure. So we have to start looking at the way our life is and how things are going, and who we are working with, because I see a lot of division over this, and it's like, we have to define what Canadian identity is, because there's a lot of ideas, and a lot of it. Yes, I understand that there were the certain cultures that were the ones that started the country, but there were a lot of other people that came along the way that contributed to the country, and that they came here and lived as Canadians. Do I consider those people Canadians? Of course they do, because why wouldn't you? Because they're here, that they came in and they lived according to this. Now, if you want to come in here and change the country to wherever you were, I don't care where that is, I don't agree with that, right? Like, I mean, people came here to live here, to be here in the way the country was, not currently is, because none of us signed up for communism, right?
Yeah.
But we need to start having real conversations about that, because some of that is what's actually fracturing the movement, because of some of the infighting over all of this stuff. And you don't want to make enemies, that more enemies than you need to in a fight like this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I've seen too. I've spoken to a lot of people, I would say, that are in leadership roles. And what I try to encourage the people I speak to is to try and deal with maybe some of your differences, like offline, having one-on-one calls, or like, how can we work together, right? So that we do not fracture the movement moving forward with regards to Alberta independence. And I totally agree with you in terms of alignment. Like I have a love for the United States, at least what it used to be too, right? I mean, things are like, we are at war. We are fighting like, it's an incredible type of battle, to be honest. It's the war from within. A battle of and you really have to understand what your constitution is going to be, and there's a battle going on with regards to who gets to define right from wrong. Okay, and this is where you get fundamental differences between let's just call the radical left from the right, like with regards to a moral compass. Of course, if you are a Bible believing person, a Bible believing Christian, your moral compass is going to be completely defined in a totally different way than someone who rejects Christian ideology, if you will. And these are huge, dividing points. So, and this is what we're dealing with today. And you need to be able to define. You need to know where you stand, and you should not be afraid to take a stand for what you believe in and what you want to see happen in the country, is how I look at it.
You touched on something important there, the value system. And as a Christian, I don't know any Christian that says, no, I mean, we shouldn't, don't believe that their 10 commandments is a thing. Everybody does, right? And even the ones that sit down and say that you don't have to, they don't believe in the law at all, or like, yeah, really? So somebody should rape your wife? They'll be like, no, of course not. But you know what I'm saying? Or somebody should steal. Like, these are things that should be very understandable, and most Christians will understand, no matter what, there is that moral framework, because you have that thing in common. And this is why in any society you have to have a majority of people that align to certain common values. And I'm not going to fight with people on how they worship, because the first 4 commandments, that's between you and God, right? How you worship, that's between you and God. The last 6 is how you live with your fellow man. That's what I can control, because I can control what God tells you, right? I don't know what God tells anybody. Nobody can tell me what God tells me. As long as we're not sinning, that's not my business. But if you steal and try to kill your brothers, well, I have a problem with that, because that's going to affect me and affect my neighbors and so forth. So we work with that, and should be a pretty standard set of values, that you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't, take your
common sense, right?
Right, all these things. But this is where we need to have that core value, because what we're seeing now is that those values, which are, like you said, basic common sense, aren't being respected, especially by the government.
Yeah, well, that's a problem, right? If our government and our leadership is no longer, because it's one thing having a constitution. I mean, that's one thing, right? And you legislate things into law, but then you actually have to hold people accountable and enforce it. So if these systems, because it's basically a tri-fold system, right? You have the executive, the legislative, and judicial systems of power, right? And they're supposed to be working together, but because we can like create, in a sense, what laws we want, but also they need to be enforced. But again, if you're going to walk away from what I will call the traditional Judeo-Christian system of morality, which is what we were founded upon for the most part, we're seeing a total like moral decay internally happen, like in Canada. Like Canada's at the forefront of this, and like just look at the public school system, look at the universities, look at what's being taught, look at what's being normalized. Okay, see, and you can see this transformation taking place, and it's outrageous, right? Like if you're, of course, again, a Bible-believing Christian, you should be outraged over these things, and you should be saying, we don't want this, and what are you going to do? And people say, well, what can I do about it? See, there's lots you can do about it. You can become involved locally, right? Locally is where you need to be involved. Like that's where it begins.
Yeah.
Your school boards and your municipal government, you can be involved.
And some people will say, okay, they don't I'm not going to be political because of my beliefs. And I sit down and say, that's fine. But what we're dealing with isn't a political issue. This is a moral issue. Because what you're seeing in the schools, when they're doing this, like transgender agenda, the grooming and the sexualizing of children, and then so forth, that is literally the modernized form of Baal worship. So when you have a government that is instituting a national religion, even though they may not actively talk about the spiritual practice, the bowing down to the idol, they're actually associating with the physical practices of that religion. You cannot allow that to happen. You have to call it abuse, especially like this, because they're enforcing something, and this is a matter of conscience. When you say that you don't want this instruction to your children, and the government is compelling you to do something that is consistent with devil worship, you have an obligation not to take that lying down. So whether you say that you have a not political, well, what about the moral issue of them ramming this filth down your kids' throats?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's just it, Dale. I mean, this is the whole normalization of perversion. Okay, it's one little step at a time. You just have to look through the history, like how they've done it. It's one step at a time. And they know exactly what they're doing. Like I say, they, quote unquote. But I mean, the agenda to destroy, the nuclear family, traditional morality. This is all part of I'm going to say, the overall neo-communist movement spreading across the world. We're going to be heading towards this global system. And I mean, Carney's, of course, he's on board with that, like 100%. But the liberals of 100%, like they're just on the fast track program. It's not a good thing. And I look at it, everything is integrated. Like we talked about it a little bit about this before we went on our live here. But see, like everything is interconnected, from the spiritual to the physical to the intellectual. And this is part of the problem, like with some people that over spiritualize everything. Like I understand where they're coming from, but you also have to understand that we function in this physical world, and we need to bring like physical solutions to some of the problems that are happening at the surface level, which means that you can become involved. Like you go to your school board meeting, you go to your town hall meetings, and when people start discussing this stuff, you just have to say, I don't want this for my kids. As simple as that. Like even just speaking those words, to a group of people has power to me in the smallest way, like the smallest steps. Like, and then if we all start doing these things, like it's all interconnected. It's just that we don't necessarily have the understanding of how that works. Like most people don't. But my approach is you take a look at what's going at the surface level, okay? Because that's the fruit. I call it the fruit. Like that's what's happening today. And I don't know, like your leaders reflect the current state of the country's health. So if you get a guy like Trudeau or Carney or whoever these leaders are, Nenshi, NDP, and like this is the result of what people want. They put these people into power, right? So
yeah, and I look at it this way. There's, even if you're not political, if the government is engaging in immoral behavior, you have to say something. You cannot sit down and allow the government unchecked to start doing these types of things, especially going after children. Like, I'm sorry, but faith without works is dead. And in the Bible, when they did filth to children, they said the punishment was to stone them. And then if you saw it and you did nothing, you got stoned too, because you're just as guilty, because silence is consent. And when you read in the Bible, it always tells you that basically this concept is there evil continues, and the Bible talks about this. I think it's in Zechariah, where he talks about you need to ensure that justice is done in the gates, otherwise it will sow violence in the land. So when the gate represents the court system, right? So if you have an unjust court system, you're going to have wickedness. And what do you see in our court system today? There is nothing but injustice. And what do you see rampant going on? The criminals are being let free, but you hurt someone's feelings, you're getting thrown in jail. How can you have a country that functions when the judicial branches, their design is for the average person to restrain the executive and the legislative branch if they're getting on the line? And if you can't do that, then what do you have left? You have tyranny.
Well, yeah, we're seeing that moral decay now, and like I just say, like some people ask me, well, why are all these things the way they are? And you know what I tell them? I say, like, just go take a look in the mirror.
Yes.
Go take a look. It's because of us, right? Like, and I put myself in there. It's because of us. It's like we decide collectively. Like, if you want a higher standard of accountability, then you need to push for that, right? You need to talk to your elected MPs, and I'll tell you one thing with the politicians, right? They're just consensus managers. That's all they are. I don't actually see them as real leaders. Like, real leaders are not like that. And if that offends them, good, because I don't see you guys as predominantly leaders. You're not.
I know. I agree.
I mean, a real leader will look at the problem for what it is and speak truthfully about it. You know, you cannot deny the science aspect of it too. That's a very good thing, because you know when they pushed all this, I call it the injectable holy water agenda. Yeah, I love that one, right? Yeah, because it's like thou shalt not question the C19 injectable holy water. Yeah, I mean, and that's what it was. And there was three fundamental lies. Like it was oh, you get jabbed, right? You'll be immune. That was lie number one. It was lie number two was it'll prevent infection and then prevent transmission. All these things that are factually, like, you can prove that these things were 100% not true. And all these non-disclosure agreements they signed with these manufacturers. I mean, these people are guilty of crimes that cost people's lives. And nothing has been, there's been zero accountability for none of them.
Yes. And even like when, for example, when the federal government, when they had the Public Health Agency of Canada direct and advise the Minister of Health, that was Patty Hajdu, to go to get the orders in council for the Quarantine Act, the crime was already committed. Because the Public Health Agency of Canada, they gave faulty information to the minister that then took it to get the order in council, and it was tainted. Because before you start initiating quarantine is not the first thing that you do. It's not. And the Public Health Agency of Canada knows that, because in order to properly quarantine, you need to have engineering controls, because you can't quarantine people without doing that properly, especially when you're dealing with that sort of stuff. So when they did not, and they know this because they operate the BSL-4 labs, where if they don't have that, no matter how much quarantine you have, those people are not going to live, right? So this is where they went wrong. And from that, this is every step they just went further and further and further, and then gave you that experimental gene therapy that was that the spike protein that they made is what it produces in your body. So they tested it out when they released this stuff, which didn't do much harm in the way that we traditionally think. People weren't dropping dead, but it was doing damage to you. And now they gave you the jab for that produces that same spike protein in your body, and you see what it does to people.
I mean, there's so many people you can talk to. Like, you know, obviously I'm not a doctor, but there's a diverse spectrum of people that have put their skin in the fight, if you will, that have put their careers and reputations out there. It doesn't mean that they're right about everything, but like if I'm a government official, I would be taking all the information of all the trains of thoughts and about what happened here, right? And then you gather the evidence. This is how like you empirically prove things, right? They should know this, but they're going to try and bury it for the rest of their lives, because guess what? That means that they know they're guilty. They know, but they're going to deny it for the rest of their lives. They're going to try to, but then there's teams of people that are working very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. But especially in the United States, there's lots of people coming up against these. Because I mean, if it was just outright criminal, right? And I mean, we don't have to make the whole discussion about COVID, but the reason it always comes up with me is because I watched this whole thing right from the beginning, and it was a fear-driven campaign, right? Just absolute fear-driven campaign, and basically drink the Kool-Aid and don't ask questions. That's basically how you summarize it in the simplistic way. And you talk about following the science. You know what I would do? You get your team of best people, and we'll get our team of best people, and let's have an exchange. Like let's look at your science, and then I'm going to look at the other side of the debate science, and we'll see. This is what should be happening, but good luck. Because they're going to use all the levers they can, because it's all lies, Dale. Basically, I mean, honestly, we live in a world where if our leaders actually did what was right, we wouldn't even be in this situation now. Because of course, the money draws a lot of people in, right? Oh, this is for people. The pretext is always for your health and safety. Oh, it's for your health and safety. God forbid you trust your immune system for anything or any natural alternatives, because you can't cash in on. Like the way you see money is again, if you look at the driving force behind why a person's doing what they're doing, a lot of times these powerful people, it's always the almighty dollar. And it's okay to make money, but you can, what I tell people is that you can actually make money by doing the right thing too, guys. It is possible. You can make your millions of dollars by actually doing the proper science and creating a product that's actually good. You don't have to lie your way into riches. That'll only be worse for you in the end. Sorry,
anyway. I had a big spill on my computer, so
right?
So I'm like, I can't. It won't work very well if it's wet, and so.
Okay.
But
got that fixed.
Yeah, but what I was sitting down and wanted to say is that they have with the COVID, what it did was the wheels came off the bus at that point in time, and a lot of problems started to get very, very, very evident at that point in time. And that's where people need to realize that they need to be fixed. And this is where we have a focal point and of a lot of things that were completely what looked like unrelated that we saw come together. And the biggest thing that we saw was like the collapse of the judicial branch. We know that there was corruption in the court system, but we saw it on an unprecedented level. Look at what happened with the boys at Coots. Like, they were there imprisoned on like nonsense, right? And it was just like, it became very evident that people that didn't even have any criminal history were getting thrown under the bus, right? And so forth. And before, they had it relegated to just a lot of people that they considered criminals, and even a lot of people that they were considered criminals. What we'll find is that a lot of them actually aren't, because our justice system has made a practice of throwing people in jail to keep the numbers up while protecting other people. And this is where we have a huge problem. We saw this very evident, J6ers in the States and in the Coots boys, and what happened with the convoy. Makes it very evident how our justice system is weaponized against people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because it's about, they're trying to toe that party line, right? A lot of these people, threw their vote in, right, for all this COVID stuff. And to me, what I saw happen, my view of it was there was a lot of intellectual laziness going on. A lot of people were in positions of power and authority, but the problem of what happened is, I call it the Santa Claus complex really kicked in. Like, people were in these positions of power, but instead of really looking into it for themselves, they just kind of again, I say drank the Kool-Aid and didn't ask questions, and then basically expected all of us to do the same. Of course, they got kickbacks for it, and we didn't. But in this like, see, every decision they make has consequences, and of course, the Alberta independence movement too is a direct result of like the complete incompetency of, I would say, the Liberal government and their policies for the last over 10 years. I mean, what do you think's going to happen, guys? Like, this is because of you. It's not. It's because of your management and your terrible leadership that you're driving like all this division. And a lot of people don't want the Canada that you envision.
No,
like, that's what this is all about.
I didn't.
They don't manage it right.
No, like, I didn't grow up in this country. I don't know what this is. This is not what I grew up in. This country is unrecognizable and foreign to me.
Yeah, 100%. I feel the same way. Like, it's nothing of what it used to be. And it's because of the mass immigration. And when you bring people in, like I'll use Islamic jihadists, for example. Like if you study the Sirah, the Quran, and the Hadiths, and you actually look at like what's actually written in there and why certain Muslim majority countries, the way they govern themselves, it's a completely different ideology than, I'm going to say, traditional Western liberal democracy. Okay, like there are huge differences, and of course, when you're in the minority group, you're always going to play the victim card, and then of course the liberals are going to facilitate that because the liberals always pander to the perceived victim. Okay, and they don't seem to realize that they're being used. And see, that's what I would challenge them to look at. You're being used in a way that you cannot see, and it all depends what do you want to create? What kind of nation do you want to have? Like, I believe in the individuality of nations. I reject globalism 100%. It will not work because you have so many different ideologies. I call it. It's not about color. It's not about race. But again, it's your inner constitution, because it starts with the individual. It starts with one person, and then that vision spreads. And then you build your country accordingly. But if you allow certain groups to come in unvetted, and if you look at what I'm going to say, like on memory, it's the Middle Eastern Media, I think, Reporting Institute, what some of the imams are even teaching in Canada, you would be blown away. You would be blown away at some of the stuff being taught to the younger people right in your own backyard. Complete like constitutional subversion of what the traditional Western liberal democracy was. And it's like you're gonna sit there and call me Islamophobic or whatever ridiculous terminology you come up with, when it's like, take a look at the evidence, guys. Take a look at what's being said. Take a look at the ideology. And it's not, I'm just using that as an example. It's one of the problems because, again, Canada is, remember, by Justin Trudeau's word, the first post-national state. So they're going to try and blend everything in together as one thing. That's what they're doing. That's what Canada has.
What people have to understand and look back in history, when you have people that govern themselves, the only how that's going to work is if they serve God. And I'll tell you that because sure. Rome was a republic and they were pagan and they did abominations and they got destroyed. They collapsed. It just fell apart. You look through history and you watch this. And like God told the Israelites, you're going to rule yourself and I'll be your king. And when they did that and they followed God, things went well. But when they got the king, they sat down and they said it was the worst thing that we did. Because when they had that, then they just fell into just apostasy over and over and over again. So in order to have, and we're not sitting down and saying that you have to institute a national religion, force people how to work. No, we're not saying that. But people have to make the choices themselves, because if they have that moral center and you have a moral compass and you know that when you're doing what you're doing, you're also answering to God and the people are also thinking in that manner, you're going to have a better society, right? Like Christian societies generally are tending to be better because of the Bible. Christians in Israel, God says, don't vex the stranger. Like, and that means somebody that's not from you. They're free to do what they want as long as they're not breaking your laws and doing all kinds of filth, which along with what their practices was, which God was like, absolutely not. But I don't care what somebody's going to do in their home as long as they're not doing harm. I'm not going to tell people how to live their life. If you're going to come here, you should abide by the laws and adapt to the way that it is. Because if you change the way it is, the structure and the freedom, because God gives you civil and religious liberty, because both of them are necessary, because you can't have religious liberty without civil liberty, and you can't have civil liberty without religious liberty. They're if you take away one, you've lost the other. And so
one of the issues, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that we need to have the country the way it is in order to preserve liberty. Otherwise, there won't be any.
And I get that. And the only issue I have is when you take a look at what Sharia law actually really is, and because I study a lot of this stuff, right? So, of course, they're going to say, well, under the pretext of freedom of religion, right, we should be able to advance it. But I disagree with that. There is a limit to it, because it's a total different constitutional, I'm going to say, system of governance that is in opposition to the Western system, and especially the American system of governance. And it is being looked at now. There's actually a woman there, Amy Meck. She's with the Rare Foundation. She's talking about all this stuff openly, things that are going on in Texas and Florida. I mean, these are real issues, and there's going to be a clash of cultures on this for sure.
But the U.S. Constitution says that you cannot, Congress can't make any laws pertaining to religion. So Sharia law is out because it comes from Islam. It comes from their religion.
Agree, yeah.
So right there, it's plain. I can't go and pass a law forcing you to think the way that I do in terms of religion. Right? So then what makes them think that the Islamic Sharia law can come in? The Constitution literally prohibits it. Because
and it needs to be stopped. Because, see, that's the problem. And it's like, because I'll tell you this, Dale. If I went to Iran, okay, or a Muslim majority country, okay, I'll use Iran for example, and I acted the way that some of these guys on the other side of the fence act in America, I'd be killed.
Of course you would.
No ifs, ands, or buts. So this is the thing that drives me nuts about these types of people that come here that take advantage of everything that these countries have to offer. Yet if I went to their own backyard, I would be killed and eradicated. See, the hypocrisy is unreal, and I don't like it. I have a big problem with this.
Like we were talking before offline, enforcement is the problem. Because if they actually enforce the Constitution, Sharia law would not be an issue. The Constitution literally prohibits anybody from passing any religious type of laws. That includes Sharia law. So
that's good.
So why this is why we're having all of these problems, because the more laws you pass, the more restriction there needs to be from the government, and the current government likes to pass laws without enforcing them so that they can take our freedoms. Watch what the government does, because we have a lot of laws on the books that are just not being enforced, and they're not using them. They're not enforcing the Constitution even at all. And so we're getting to all of these problems, and they're like, get up all the freedoms. They're like, okay, first of all, for example, they talk about the pornography with the children and stuff like that, and they're wanting to restrict and pass these laws. I'm like, no. Okay, the way the laws work, like if you were a person that had a porn store that sold pornography, for one, you couldn't let children in the door. The obligation was on you to sell that product to people that were over the age, whether people like it or not. The fact is, when it came to children, you had to be couldn't sell it to children, and they would be punished if they did. So tell me, why is it that the people that are online that are handing the stuff out to children, they're not getting punished? It's the same concept. So they should be hammering these guys, making sure, sell what you want, but don't sell this to children, because they're profiting off of this. So why are they not hammering those companies that if I took a DVD and I handed it to a child, I'm going to prison? So why are these guys getting away with it?
Well, they shouldn't be. And see that again, like you just said, it's a problem of enforcement. And this is where, see, and when you have a no consequence, no disciplinary type society, which is the general path we're taking, and then you wonder why. Take a look in the mirror, man. It's because we've abandoned, again, you're abandoning your moral compass, okay, and then you're not enforcing anything. So this is what you get. These are the direct consequences of the decisions that we make collectively. It's simple. It's just 1 + 1 = 2. Someone does something wrong, and if you don't act like to correct it and nip it in the bud, it's just going to grow like cancer.
You're preaching to the choir. But yes, this is why when I ran for politics, they threw me under the bus, because I'm not a political guy. I couldn't stand. Growing up, I hated politics. I was like, they're liars and everything else like this. But I'm like, okay, if I don't do something, no one else will, because we've got a bunch of cowards running the country, running the provinces, and so forth. So, but I was a guy that, had I come into politics, things would be very different if I was elected in Saskatchewan, because I would be the guy that just would not hold my tongue. And I don't have to be rude or anything like that. I just tell the truth like it is, and I can be very polite and pleasant,
you need that,
but tell you exactly what is going on. And I was like, consequences needed to come, and they didn't want somebody that wanted to bring consequences, because a lot of these guys in government, even in Alberta, they will get consequences. Let's actually talk about go on to the independence side of things, because when you look at what's happening here, they need a divorce from the government. They need a divorce even on a provincial level from a lot of those people that are sitting in Edmonton right now, because a lot of them are not working for the people, right? And I mean, you look at some of the stuff let's go back to COVID. What happened during COVID? Even on the federal level and even on the provincial level, there are people, as far as I'm concerned, 99% of the people in politics, they need to be gone everywhere.
Yeah.
That's because most people are not working for the interests of the people. Most of them are working for whoever's paying them. And we need to change that. Yeah, but we need to make changes here, because I mean, the federal government is, I mean, they're out of control. The overreach during COVID, that's where I lost it. So what do you see about that? What drove you, or is driving more people to that direction?
When it comes to Alberta independence, I would say COVID. That's when I was done with Canada, in the sense that I was no longer proud of this country. I used to be a proud Canadian, believed in Confederation, all these things. But the more and more, they love to blame us, but it's like, no, guys, it's because of you. Okay, let me make that very clear. COVID really drove the nail in the coffin for me. And I mean, basically, the Trudeau government made it so I won't even fly the Canadian flag. There's just no way. This is not the Canada, man, that it was 30, 40 years ago. Okay, let me get that straight. You guys talk about these forever Canadian people. I mean, they have this blind sense of patriotism. It's what is Canada? It's the first post-national state. No mainstream, no core identity. That is not a country I support anymore. I will not be a part of that. I don't. COVID did it for me, and also because when you actually start looking at the way. It's basically we're under the British system of government.
Yeah. Yes.
System. I mean, even the senators. You look. There's you look at the Senate. I think there's 105. Don't quote me on that, but I mean, just the Maritimes. I spent some time there. They have 24. They have a population of 2 million people. Alberta has 6 senators, and we have 5 million people. I understand how it works. You got 24 in Ontario, 24 in Quebec, and 24 in the West is what they say. But it's not, if I can use the word representation by population, per capita, it's compared to the Maritimes to Alberta, I think it's a 10-to-1 difference.
What they should do with the Senate is what they did in the States, and everybody gets 2, or if you want to put 5, everybody gets 5. And then then Ontario and Quebec do not have such a high weight in the Senate, right? They shouldn't.
Yeah, no, exactly, Dale. I mean, like even just when you look at the seats federally between Ontario and Quebec, there's like 200 seats. I mean, we have 37. I mean, we're like what they should have done. I don't want to give them any ideas, but see, if they wanted Alberta, if they really want Alberta to remain a part of Canada, then they actually need to look at like it from Alberta's point of view, from the separatists, if you want to call it, or the independent supporters' point of view. That's what a smart leader would do. And they need to look at it for what it is. And what I would do if I was the prime minister is I would actually just make changes based on, yeah, they're contributing, like basically Alberta's sugar daddy, right? And not only that, and then you give all this money out, and then on top of it, Ottawa's telling you how to govern your own space. See, that's where the outrage comes in for a lot of people that support independence, and it's an easy thing to fix to me. If the formula for constitutional amendments, though, I realize it's never going to change, right? That's another issue. It won't change.
The only how they don't need a constitutional amendment. They need to just sever. They need to stop becoming. They need to sever ties with the monarchy and become a republic.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And when they become a republic, then they have to create a new constitution. They don't need to amend it. They just need to. Canada cannot function if it is a constitutional monarchy. It cannot, because it's an oxymoron, right? You have a king, but you have a democratic society, right? Because like the Privy Council spawned from the pits of hell, right? Like, I mean, it literally, like they're just a bureaucratic office that's just accountable to nobody, right? Yeah, like right. It's just
no accountability here. Yeah, no.
Ask the average Canadian what the Privy Council does.
Well,
that's exact.
Senate do, right? It's
but most people don't even know what it does. They know they just hide everything. That's pretty much all they do is hide everything. We know that. But
it's yeah, like I Dale, like I honestly, like, the problem is education. It's not like we're all busy with our lives. I get that, and it stems right from the way you raise your kids. Like if just say you're in Gaza, right? You're raised to like hate Israel, and you put guns in your hands, and the young boys are taught a certain way, right? In Canada, you're basically given the rainbow flag, right? And it's kind of like the total opposite, and everything's okay, and it all stems from how you. Because I look at every child as like a blank slate. Okay, they're innocent, they're pure, and it's a problem with education, right? In the universities, from the public schooling system, and what you're taught. If you're actually taught about your government and the way the country works, I think people would be outraged. Like if you actually knew how things really work. So
yes, they would.
But it's intentional. It's all intentional. It's like you exist. Like, because it's like taxation. I just view taxation as a form of theft. Now I'm not against all taxes. But it's like, again, these government officials, like, you guys get these great pensions and all this great pay because everyone else is working. And yet you're the ones like undermining the country in a way that's like so self-destructive. And yet you see yourselves as heroes. It's like, it's the definition of absolute insanity to me, like the way it works. Like, we work so you guys get paid. You've forgotten about that. And it's like, to me, an MP, it's a position of privilege to me, like in the sense that, you get paid, because we work. Like, I work to pay you, to do a good job, to watch over like the people. Like, I shouldn't have to do what I'm doing now, but I do what I do now because you guys don't do it. Like, and it's free, right? It's like the watchmen. You guys are supposed to be the ones watching out for us and our families. But to me, you failed like on a level that I can't even describe. Like, and COVID proved that. You name one. Now, who actually took a stand? You guys are always marching along, right? That this was done for your sake. Oh, it's bullshit. No, it wasn't. And like, the day will come, right? It will come. Like where the science will be the very thing that takes you guys down. And then what are they going to do? They're going to, oh, you watch the finger pointing. They'll be blaming the companies. They'll be blaming, and because they never did their homework. That's what I say. You guys never did your homework. You just basically you oh, this guy's like a big wig from this company, so he must be right. Oh yeah, see, that's your first mistake. I don't care who you are. I'm no respecter of persons. In this, now, I'm not going to disrespect you, but like I don't care if you're a billionaire. I'll talk to you the same way I talk to anyone else. And like, but I'll figure you out pretty quickly, because again, if you figure out what the driving force is, because these guys are really sweet talkers, right? They're good.
Yes.
They know how to play the game. They're professionals. Okay. So everything is about money for some of these individuals. It's just about money. As long as you can sell the lie, and better yet, if they believe in their own product, that's a double whammy. That's a plus, because then not only is this product not good, but they actually believe that it is, then you've accomplished your goal. Like if I was the mastermind behind all this, that's exactly what you want, because you want your CEOs believing in the product. You want them pushing it on the people. Then you win over the CEOs, the MPs, which are so easily lobbied. They just cave like nothing because they just want to be, because it's all about popularity for them, right? It's not about truth. You got to remember, most of these people in charge, it's not about truth. They run from the truth. About consensus. It's about being seen with all the big, famous, popular people, right? And I'll tell you, you sold your soul in the process along the way. And I feel sorry for you, because you will account. I'll tell you that. You will account for what you've done. You will.
Yes.
All of us will. Not just me, not just them. So will I. And it's all about how you play. I'll say this. It doesn't matter what hand you've been dealt with, but what matters, it's how you play the hand that you've been dealt with. Even if you got a shitty hand, but if you played it well, like that's what matters. That's how I look at life. Yeah.
Yes. I just want to, we just need to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back after this. Oh yeah, for
sure, man. I've been going on.
No worries.
Hello friends, my name is Keisha, and I'm a proud member of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. And I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Saskatchewan, moved into Alberta, and even crossed into the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems over the last 5 years that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father Dale Richardson, we started the Caris Project. This is an Indigenous, survivor-led movement for humanity dedicated to exposing trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. One of the most powerful tools that we are using is the petitions for redress of grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in Canadian and US law, and in treaties that tie us together across provinces, across states, and even across borders. These petitions are precedent-setting. They create a binding record. They demand accountability while representing reconciliation in action. Indigenous and non-Indigenous people working side by side to preserve liberty for all. But we cannot do this alone. We need your help to keep this movement alive, to raise awareness and to build a legacy of justice for Indigenous women, for trafficking survivors, and for families everywhere. Thank you. Please stand with us. Your support makes this work possible. Together we can restore justice, heal families, and defend freedom. And I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who cannot be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. And men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Yes, and so for those who want to support the work that we're doing here, you saw the QR codes there, or you could go to mypillow.com/Caris or call 1-800-845-2942. Use the promo code Caris, get some good MyPillow stuff there. Also, if you are looking on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, or Vocal, you can see links in the description. We have merchandise and other products that you can use to support if you like the content and want to help the accountability to go forward. just kind of just touching on that with what my daughter said there at the end about the greatest want of the world is the want of men. That is spot on. Men,
It's powerful.
that we need more men with integrity that won't bend, that they will do what is right. The reason why we're in this mess is because of this. Spineless men and cowardice are the biggest problem on planet Earth right now. And this is why we're at where we're at. Like and going back into this, let's talk about this whole thing with the Centurion Project and the information, because that's problematic. I know people were coming to cover it up, but that's an issue that needs to be addressed. And regardless of the situation and the ins and outs of it, you can't do that. If this is the case, you can't do that. And people should sit down and say, listen, I support the movement, but I don't support any wrongdoing in that kind of way, because then it'll just harm it altogether.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, and I've just heard as much as anyone else had. Like, I know I did a Facebook post just on, because I'd actually never heard of David Parker or the Centurion Project or Cam Davies with the Alberta Republican Party until, I don't know. But I agree with you. If like, and my word to them is that if you did wrong, the way I look at it, the only saving grace for you guys now is you better come clean. You better be transparent about what happened. And like for me, like I will not be a part of covering anything like that up. Like that's for 100% sure. I'll have nothing to do with that. I believe that we need to follow the letter of the law, like to the cross T and the dotted I, because we're trying to create something new. And any kind of like foul play like that, to me, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable in my world, not at all.
I like I said, I know the guy. Like I don't know him well, but I know the guy, and I know a lot of people that interact with him and so forth, and regularly, and see a lot of this stuff that goes on. And I don't have any feelings to the guy one way or the other. It's neither here nor there, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's not my best friend. He's not my enemy. He's a guy, right? And that's just really it. But the thing is that people have to start looking at the actions critically and what's going on, because that is something that, regardless of whatever it is, it has to be dealt with, because it's going to only cause negative problems to everything else. And as far as I'm concerned, it looks like an advantage that the federal government can use to cause more problems. That's what I see it. Right?
But that's like I always follow my opposition. Always follow your opposition, because they're going to be the first ones to post everything you do wrong online. Okay? So like, be smart about it. Take a look at what they're saying. It doesn't mean you believe everything they say. It's being smart. Okay? So if there was wrongdoing, you can't just say, oh, that's just the left media. Well, before you say that, let's just see what happens and find out. It's about what's true. If you follow truth, the truth applies to our own team just as much as it does to those on our opposition. That's the way I look at it. So we have to be above board. So if it's like if you're playing hockey and one of your team members does something that's not right, and are you going to cover it up, or you call it out for what it is, right? That's the question. Like, to me, and I just look at it like if people in leadership roles are going to do things that are very foolish, that I cannot support stuff like that. I will never be a part of stuff like that. Like even if in private conversations, you can count me out. Like if we're gonna, you have to be above board with how you do these things. Like, follow the rules.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not very happy about that, but yeah, that's my take on it.
Like I think that things need to be handled in a better manner, and then the fracturing within the independence movement is also an issue. Like, yes, it's doing better rurally, but in the cities, it's not doing as well as it could be, and that needs to change, because, honestly, at the end of the day, yes, the makeup of Alberta is very different than it was 20 or 30 years ago, right? Like, when I came when I came to Alberta in 2001, it's changed substantially, a lot,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
And I've been Alberta a few times before that. Like, I was born and raised in Winnipeg. I was a prairie boy, right? So I get what the life out west was like because I lived it all my whole life, and it's changed substantially. And so
Yeah.
even though there are people, like, I have no problem with people immigrating legally. That happens all the time, and it's happened through human history. That's just the nature of the way things are. So that's not an issue. It's when they started, like they were bringing in ridiculous amounts of people, but not people that were benefiting the country. They were bringing people that lived like slaves in squalor, that had no conception of what was going on because that was their life, to bring them over here to work. What did they expect, right? Like, this is what you're sitting down and thinking. So you're going to radically start changing this. But the thing is that a lot of people are, and I see this happening often, there's a lot of this, people turning this into a lot of a race issue. And I don't agree with this, because you're shooting yourself in the foot, because I can guarantee you there are people of every race that don't like this illegal immigration. They don't like people that are coming here to be criminals, right? They don't, like, one person says, oh yes, just because they look like me, I want them to come in and rob me too. Who says that? Right? Like,
it's another tactic to me. Like, the liberal, it's like the left. They always take the surface level of things in this respect and twist it into a matter of racism. It has nothing to do with racism. Now, I do have an issue with it's about ideology. Like, I focus on that, where your ideologies align, and whether, yes, you're coming in to contribute. Now, it's not that we shouldn't help people. The analogy I give is basically, okay, just say you have a house, Dale, you have a household, you have a certain amount of income coming in, and it's sort of like, okay, maybe I can help one person out of the goodness of your heart. You want to do that, maybe two. But then just say the government comes along and says, oh, Dale, I want you to have 20 people or 30 people in your house. You know, what's going to, and just say they're not contributing members of society. That's going to financially ruin you, right? Like, so I look at it this way in terms of, like, the people you bring in, you need to make sure that there's, I'm going to say, ideological alignment, that, yeah, you're not coming here to set up like Sharia law, for example, and you're here to actually contribute and not just take. Like, you have a plan. Like, I would have like a plan to get yourself like as a contributing member. And then, of course, you have people that you do help just out of charity. That's fine. But it needs to financially make sense. Like, it's just common sense stuff. Like, you want to bring people into the country. Okay, they're going to set up a business, or they're going to be doing this, or they're going to be working as an engineer. Good. Like the color has nothing to do with it. It's about that's the way I look at it. And the way I would make policy is based on, okay, first of all, how much money's coming in? What's our budget? Okay, housing market, all these variables, not just making ridiculous decisions out of some virtue signaling campaign that the liberals just, they honestly seem to have like zero care for the long-term consequences of anything they do. Like, it's just, that's how we
yes, and there are even people on the conservative side that are doing this. And I watch them vocally talk about this.
Yeah, it's not just liberals. I know I'm generalizing.
I get it. I understand that the ideology comes more from that side because of the way that they're manipulating people, right? Yeah. Because they're more on the emotional side, because they have more women on the liberal side that are doing this, and they're more prone to the emotional, because it's like they talk about the suicidal empathy, and they appeal to these things to get you to do wrong things. And this is pure like psyops, and the government military said we're doing this to the Canadian people. Like, so
yeah,
I mean,
I remember that. Yeah.
So when you're but when you're looking at this, and I keep telling people this, I said the guys that are doing this, I understand that you're angry about certain things, but what you're doing is actually causing your own destruction by doing this, because at the end of the day, like you said, ideology is more important than anything else. Because I listened to one guy and said that I would rather have Marxist Europeans coming here than to have other minorities that were patriots. And I was like, you're an idiot. You are literally an
Yeah.
idiot, right? Like, you're going to say that somebody was saying, yeah, America can survive if we got filled with white Marxists. And I was like, you're but like, these are the kinds of people. And if you really honestly look at the extreme left and the extreme right, they're almost ideologically the same. Like, when people start getting down to these things, and I get it, some people get angry, they say certain things, whatever. That's not my concern. I'm talking about the guys that have their minds bent in this way and so forth, because that harms people, and the government loves these people, and they allow them to get a bigger microphone than they actually should have. And then each side begins to start pointing the finger and identifying, because there are people that say identify as liberal that don't like what the liberal government are doing.
Yeah, sure. I get that. More like the traditional liberals. Yeah, like the classic liberals. Yeah, are actually the more libertarian-minded people. And
yes. So we shouldn't lump those people in with those lunatics that are like communists, right? Because they like free. Sure, they have some differences, but they still want law and order. They still want the same 100%. Thing, right? So we got to start. We start refining what we're doing. Yes, we have to identify the ideology, but not every person that is politically on the left subscribes to that insanity, that communist mentality.
And that's right.
And
I'm glad you said that, Dale. Yeah, that's good. That's right.
Because we want to appeal to those people, because a lot of those people are disgruntled with the government, right? But they don't come over to this side because they're not getting the help, because some people are just blanket blaming everybody. And I'm like, no, there are sensible people on either side, and there's idiots on either side. The ones that you see that it seems to be more sides because they're more prone to this emotional manipulation, which is a straight psyop. Like, it is. Like, our government's been psyoping us for years, and it's disgusting. And then they're getting us to do the work for them while they reap the benefits while we mow each other down. It's like, stop. We need to stop.
Yeah, like it. And it's good, like, because I don't, like, I just look at you, like, to me, you're my brother, like, brother at arms, the way I look at it. Like, I don't even see, like, it's not, it's funny, like, how people peg people as racist. Like, I never quite understood, like, it never really resonated with me, right? I just look at the individual, like, what character, like, I look at the individual constitution of the person.
Yes.
I don't care whether you have purple skin. Like, to me, like if you can tell, right, this person's a good person. Like, I like this person. This person's solid. I mean, I've always been that way, right? Like, I never really understood how you can possibly hate an entire group of people just because because they don't have, at the surface level of things. I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense.
That
like would, in my well, it doesn't to me.
When you see this happening, this is like that guy named Chase Hughes. Go watch this guy. This guy was CIA, and he literally did psyops, and he talks about this on persuasiveness, and he tells you, when you see them putting a binary type of thing, either this or that, like good or bad, you're watching how if you don't identify with this, then you're basically the devil. You're in a psyop, right? Like, because so when they're trying to paint all the people in right or left as good and bad, that's a psyop. It's the ideology that's the problem, not the actual. Yes, it's associated more so with the left, but you have to understand that the ideology is the issue, not the necessarily political persuasion. Because, like, I mean, I've talked to people on both sides, and my daughter's talked to people on both sides. If you go and you talk, like, my daughter went to a Kamala Harris event in the States, and she was doing just reporting, and most of the people she talked to would agree with the things that she said, which were, people would say, were traditionally conservative, but it's not, because what person wants to have crime in their neighborhood? What person doesn't want to be able to work without government interference? What people doesn't want their kids to be protected? Right? So yes, they push these, like, those, multicolored hair Karens out there, right? Which, like, I mean, the Karen is like the white equivalent of those black women that you see going nuts. It's the same type of thing. They push that and make people think that that's everybody is like that, and this is not true. We want to get the sensible people from every side to work together, because those are the people that will get things done, right?
Yeah, no, and that's the right approach, Dale. I'm glad you said that, because yeah, that is the right way to look at it, and trying to get people to work together. And that's why I say, like with Alberta Independence, to try and unite under certain things. Everyone's a unique individual, okay? And once everyone's doing their own thing, but I think we need to try and be a bit better at working together and just supporting each other. And not like, oh, he said this one thing here, so therefore I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of mentality, which I think is really, that'll just creates isolationism and all this denominational divides over things, to me, that are like, are you serious? You're seriously going to like not work with each other because you don't agree on this particular thing? And this is how people are. And I'm
but if I was to just throw somebody out because they said one thing, I'd have to exclude myself, because I've said a lot of stupid things in the course of my life, right? So what person?
We all.
Well, who's perfect? Like, none of us.
No one.
Like, if we would be, we'd be God, and we're not. So that's really, we're stuck with imperfect people. Now we have to just start looking at it. What threshold are they at? Like, are they trying to, like, move in the right direction? Then that's okay. I can work with that. If you just want to go straight down, I can't help you. Right? Because I don't want to sink.
Like your mentality.
I want to swim.
Yeah.
So find a way to work.
Yeah. No, I think Canada really needs to take a look at themselves. I think the leadership there, it's like these people that want to save Canada. Well, you better start holding your leaders accountable for just a multitude of reasons. There's so many things. The system's broken. That's why I believe independence is the only way. It's the only path forward to me. I believe for this country, because we need complete reform. We need a new constitution. We need, again, judicial, executive. Like we can bring into being a higher level of accountability if we want it. Like I tell people, yes, we can become independent if enough people want it. We can do it. That's what I believe. It's going to take more than just one or two individuals, though, but we can do it. Like what? Like there's a couple people I really recommend listening to too, like Keith Wilson. He's a constitutional lawyer in Edmonton. He's worth listening to. There's Jeff Rath. There's Mitch Sylvester. I mean, there's Corey Morgan too. That he's weighing in on Alberta independence all the time. He knows a lot of stuff. I mean, people have different views of each other. I get that, and I'm not going to comment on that. But like, I just find that if you want to know what's going on, there's a lot of people putting information out there. And again, education's key. And then you make up your mind.
I know Mitch as well, and so forth. And I mean, I look at people and I sit down and say, I don't agree with everything everybody says. I don't know any person that I agree with 100%, and that's just the way life is. It's about the bigger issues, because we all have things that we need to get done. The smaller minutia, it's not a huge issue, because I mean, those things they're not life or death issues, right? The most important issues that we need to do is to fix what's happening. And we need to also work with as many people. Like, for example, like the natives. People look at this, and a lot of people are very misinformed about the way things are. And a lot of times they put the chiefs and the people together. Well, it's like they had that poll there. A larger percentage of natives were supporting independence in Alberta than were for staying in Canada, which shocked a lot of people. But it's not, if you understand the way that the reserve system works. And people are like, oh, well, we shouldn't give them anything. I'm like, yes, you should. You should give them property rights, property ownership. Because not a single under these reserves, under these treaties, these number of treaties, they don't own the land. They don't.
That's right.
The government owns.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, legally. Yeah.
And the federal government did this with explicit intent. Because if we go back and we look at our Constitution, Go back and look at the Manitoba Act and the 1871 Constitution Act, which gave the Manitoba Act constitutional force, because that is literally where we got the ability to create provinces, was out of the Manitoba Act, which they had to elevate the constitutional force in order for it to actually take place, because they made the provinces like, oh, well, we may not have the ability to do this, so then they had to go and take it to the UK to get it put in as a part of the Constitutional Act. When they gave the Métis when they said they gave them 1.4 million acres in the land strips that they were supposed to own, they did it to extinguish their Indian title within the province, which brings a huge issue, because it then recognizes, constitutionally speaking, that Métis are Indians under the Act, which makes you wonder why they didn't include them in the Indian Act after they created the province of Manitoba. But if you understood the history of Métis, you'd understand why they did that, because they didn't want the Métis uniting the tribes to be a counterbalance against the government. And they also had their Métis Bill of Rights that wanted elected judges and sheriffs, and they couldn't have that happening. Right? That's what they wanted.
It's interesting stuff. Yeah, because I heard the latest too. It was 46%. Like I heard that actually support independence.
Yes.
So like you said too, we talked a little bit about this. The Chiefs, yeah, because I mean, again, some of these chiefs that are supporting the Confederation or Canada per se, like you really wonder, like, you know, what kickbacks, what are the lobbies, who's behind the scenes, right? Like these NGOs, all these same questions come up. But at the end of the day, like it's just, even with the ruling that just happened with the Justice Leonard there, and just trying to throw out all these signatures. We got over 301,000 signatures here, and I worked as a canvasser too. And to me, it's like even Lukasik, I think Elections Alberta says he had over 400,000 of verified signatures. So to me, like what's going on here, we need to get our signatures verified. I can't see this ruling. It's going to delay the whole process, is what how I see this happening, and maybe that's part of their tactics. But again, the premier, like Danielle Smith, she has the legal authority to just put the question on the ballot October 19th, regardless.
But
so that's one thing people. Do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be a part of Canada and become an independent state? Like, she can put that question on regardless of Stay Free Alberta's citizen initiative petition signatures. Yeah.
But the people have other aspects of this to do this as well. And one of them, like my daughter talked about, was the petition for redress of grievances, because that actually comes from the Westminster parliamentary system. They ended up codifying it into the First Amendment of the United States, because if you read the Declaration of Independence, when they said our humble petitions were met with repeated injury, and that was literally the reason why they had to pen the Declaration of Independence. Because after the judges and the courts broke down and they went to go and petition their government for redress of grievances directly to the Parliament and the Congress, the Parliament, they ignored them. And that's why they had to revolt. That's why it's in the First Amendment, and then the Second Amendment is there to back it up, because if you don't do this, that is there to guarantee that you will, so that you can avoid the bloodshed. And we have the same thing, because we have it protected under Section 2, and we got it through the Westminster parliamentary system. It's just something that people have just kind of let quietly be pushed to the side like they did in the United States, because they know that constitutionally speaking, that is the strongest thing that you can do. And the obligation, when that's brought forward, is for every member, once it's delivered, to put it in and read it in to the public record, and then put a vote on what to do with it. And that is what they should actually do, and get the people who support this to compel the government to do their duty, right? Because a lot of these guys, they're not going to do it, but they need public pressure. And this is right now, like I was talking offline, somebody's right now going into DC to go in and bring that information in that talks a lot about COVID and a lot of the issues that demonstrate why things should be done. And I mean, there's a lot of dirty stuff that Canada was involved with, the federal government, and even people in the provincial governments. And I don't care, because they need exposure, because people need to know the truth so they can make proper decisions. And I guarantee you, if more people knew what was going on, they'd want to wash their hands of the federal government.
Yeah, 100% Dale. No, I think that's right. For me, it's all about bringing accountability back to you. If you could summarize things, I mean, that's really what it's all about. And it's the thing that concerns me the most is this strange, like, I'm gonna almost say, like, hate for your own culture and this total embracement of everyone else's but your own. Like, it's almost like I don't know, like this strange democidal masochistic, like I've never seen anything like it, because you look at the other countries in the world, like even Japan, they want to protect their culture. Is that wrong? No, it's not. Like, I mean, they can, I like looking at different nations of the world and be like, yeah, that's Japan. That's their culture, right? It's their people. Why is it in the West that everything has to be like, I mean, I mean, now what it is, right? It really is, you could call it a salad bowl or whatever. I think they call that in Canada, or this multicultural. It is a multicultural world now in the Western nations. But and I'm not against it. But again, if I can just generalize, we do need to have a solid constitution or ideology that we stick to as, like, this is our golden standard and you cannot change it. Like, that's what I think is, well, in Canada for sure. Like I just find that basically anything goes here now, and I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like what it's become.
Well,
so.
And quickly, I'll just say this, because in the United States, one of the biggest reasons why they got to be the way they were is because they were a safe haven for Christians. Right now, across the globe, Christians are the most persecuted group on the planet right now. Nobody talks about this. Yeah. Nobody cares, but that's the issue. Now, why are we not bringing in people? Because Christians adapt to wherever they go. This is generally the way they are, because you look at the Bible, they conform to the laws, and God tells you to do so, and to follow the laws as long as they don't conflict with the laws of God. And so they're taught to work hard and so forth. So why are they not prioritizing bringing in people like that? They're not, because that's
a good point.
This is the reason, literally, why the West was, especially the United States and Canada, were in the position that they were because of this. God blesses these people that help his people. That's just really it. And as you start going ahead and doing this, you're watching the things change. Watch throughout history. Anybody who helps God's people, he helps them, he blesses them. And in a country like this, you look at the way that the United States is set up, you can look at that, and it was designed for Christianity to be protected until God says, okay, it's enough. And the America's never going to go away until God is going to say that it's enough, and he puts this whole thing down together. So at the end of the day, we need to go back to doing those types of things so that we will retain the types of benefits that we have. Because if we move away to this stuff like that goes down this Baal worship path, go through history. Every country that did this, every empire that did this, they fell. Every single one.
Yeah. 100%. And ultimately, Dale, I look at it like the timelines are elastic. Like, that's how I see it. That's just my understanding. I view timelines as elastic. But if you read the Old Testament's a great read, because you get to see that. You get to read over the generations, like within, I don't know, like like you can read over like 2-3 generations in like 5 to 10 minutes, right? And you can see what happened when, like, God really wanted a nation of people, right, unto himself. And of course, as they broke the covenant, right, he allowed their enemies to come up against them. And these principles are still at work to me. It's just we're living it real time, and you might see it happen slower. But those pages could be written just as easily about the nation of Canada as it departed from God, right? You could write a page or two because they chose to walk away, and this was the end result of it. So I'll leave it at that, man. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about.
I mean, we're pretty much at the point where we understand the reasons why something needs to change, and the current status quo isn't going to work. It's not. It's unsustainable. You cannot have a government with no accountability. They have to. You have to make changes. Otherwise, regardless of what people think, they need to be changes. And within the movement, they need to start working to appeal to the people that are reasonable, that want changes. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if you make everybody who is on the left an enemy, you're alienating a substantial portion of the population that you don't need to be. The lunatics, yes, leave the lunatics alone, but the reasonable people that want change, because, like with the release of the Epstein files, you're going to tell me that people want pedophiles ruling over them, or they want to take their kids in and they don't know if their doctor's going to be a pedophile or whatever the case is?
Yeah.
No, that's nonsense. So those people who want to protect their families and stuff, we don't have to agree with them politically, but we want to agree with them on the fact that we all need the same basic things. And those people we can work with, and those are the kinds of people that don't want to have what the government is doing, because a lot of people are disgruntled with their party, but because of some of the treatment that people are receiving, they're driving people into their arms because they have nowhere else to go. And that's where we need to.
Well said. I like your take, Dale. Yeah, I think that's better. That's more refined, and I'm going to take that with me too. I think that's the right approach to start there, right? And it's less polarizing, and yeah, that's the right way to put it for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, most people want the same things, and how we get there, we can debate about that, but we need to make sure that we can get those things to begin with, because right now it is not happening. So I know we're going to be running up on time. I know you got stuff to do. I've got stuff to do, but what do you want to say to the people before we go?
Well, I will encourage everyone, let's put in a really solid effort to try and support and work together. It's not that we can't call out each other's shortcomings, if you will, but I like Dale's approach too, that we need to try and bring people together. We need to try and unite people together. And of course, we need to define right from wrong again. And what kind of nation do we really want? And it isn't about color, but I say it is about ideology. We need to have a strong constitution that protects freedom, but it needs to be defined, and there are limits to what that can and cannot be. And I will refer again to Sharia law as something that needs to be outlawed in the West. There's no question about that. And we need to have respectful exchanges and conversations with those that are in opposition to us, because iron sharpens iron, and it makes us better advocates for the position that we hold. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, for me, the only option forward is Alberta independence. I will say that. And again, let's just work together in terms of pushing for a new constitution. And we can do this if enough of us will it to be so. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I think that, I mean, they've crossed a threshold and gone too far. We can't go back to the way things were. That is 100% clear. I don't have a problem with Alberta leaving. Whatever it takes to stabilize the ship is what needs to be done at the end of the day. We can't go back to the status quo. We have to do something different. And how that, obviously, I'm not advocating for any type of violence or any of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about lawful processes.
Yeah, we're doing it lawfully, yeah.
But I mean, some people might get saying whatever it takes, and they construe it the wrong way. So I'm making it clear. But we cannot go back to this. It has to change. That's really it. So I thank you for coming, and I'm going to close here with a prayer, and to everyone else, we'll see you again next year. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy, and we see all the things that are challenges that are laid out before us, and all the wickedness and the evil that is coming in the land, and help the people that they would come together, and especially the men, that we would humble ourselves before God and repent and turn away from our wickedness, that we would come together to work with the women to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, that we can have some protection for the children and remove this evil, wicked, tyrannical government that is bringing this evil, filthy worship upon us, is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Maybe so.
All right, thank you.